the storm. There's a golden sky and the sweet silver song of a lark. Walk on through the wind, walk on through the rain, though your dreams be tossed and blown. Walk on with
All right, everybody, welcome back for another edition of Kicking It Back with Matt. That's me. Tonight, got my boy Ish in the house. He's gonna kick it with us. Ish, how have you been, my man?
Doing all right. We been interested in a lot of things happened in the last week, so it'd be fun to get to it because I'm sure a few people that are watching this probably didn't even know that some of this happened.
Well, let's get to the biggest news of today. Luka Modric leaving Real Madrid after the Club World Cup.
And okay, I'm just trying to wonder why waiting until after that, as opposed to once again, it doesn't whoever his new team is, which I'm not entirely sure of. Who is he going to?
He will probably retire. He's 39 years old. He's been at Real Madrid for 13 years, and in those 13 years, he's won 28 trophies.
He probably doesn't need any more.
So originally, they didn't want him back this year, but you had Cruz leave, engine in the midfield. He retired after last year. Some sympathy, I guess you could say, for Modric. Let him hang around. He knows he's not going to play. But then what happened? Booms, injuries. He ends up playing in 16 games. It was his pass that led to the Barcelona goal to win the Copa del Rey in the second overtime. He made the right decision. He just made a bad pass and it got picked off. And the guy just took two touches and boom. But this guy's incredible. Led Croatia to the 2018 World Cup final.
I remember that game. I mean, I can't believe it's already 8 years old. I mean, it's been a while. But it's one of those where, I guess there's a sentimentality, but haven't you noticed guys are playing a lot longer than they were before? They're getting into their late 30s. Back in the day, by the time you were in your early 30s, you were already gone from Europe, and you were going to that parasite called the MLS just to scrape out some more money. Okay, that's what you do. You just said, okay, now that you have Saudi Arabia to go to, few people might go there. Guys who have a lot of name recognition and stuff. But overall, being 39 and playing this is happening in all sports. Guys are lasting longer, and I'm really shocked to see it, considering now I will just say this: in the past, I didn't think that football was a full year-round type of thing. Now they are just playing wherever for whatever exhibitions, whatever, tournaments that they make up now, and then you play for your national team. So these guys are playing 100 games a year. And I still can't believe that they're managing to do all that and then still manage to stick around longer. I assume the training is just that much better.
Yeah, I loved his game. He was like a point guard in the NBA. He just knew how to pick out all these slick, sexy-looking, sneaky passes. He knew where you were going to be before you knew where you were going to be. He had that type of forethought and instinct that you just can't teach. And he was just such a wonderful, wonderful player.
Yeah. And once again, at 39, I could see him, especially with his instincts, I could see him being a manager pretty soon.
It wouldn't shock me if he was to go home to Croatia and, start a coaching career there in his own country and then maybe build up. Or, hey, maybe he jumps in on, well, if Alonso gets named the Real boss, maybe he jumps on that staff. But I don't even know. I know why they announced it today, because their final game of the season in La Liga is this weekend. And they want the fans to give him this huge send off, just like what they did for Tony Cruz last year.
And they want to sell a lot of jerseys.
Yeah.
They also want to do that. So no, and that makes sense. But you know what I think is that most likely he'd start off his coaching career on the national team. They're not that highly ranked right now. This would be a time to get him in. A lot of these guys start off on their national team because the requirements for your national team are not as you're not coaching all year round. And then you do that for a while, and then they say, okay, we want you back at where you played usually, or some team close to home, I suppose.
Yeah, I wonder if the national team coaching requirements are the same as for a club. Because I know, like in England, you have to have certain levels of certifications to be able to even coach professionally. So I wonder if they require that for the national team.
I mean, I would think that it's probably once again not as necessary, because once again you're not their all year round trainer. You're just not. You're there for alternate weeks, a couple of months when you have a World Cup or you have a Euro Cup or something. I don't think that you would ask, and I don't think when Diego Maradona was the national team coach, I believe, I don't think he's trained hard for much. Like he, God bless that guy. He was one of the greatest that ever walked, but it just doesn't seem to me like the guy that would sit there and be like, okay, listen, I need to go get certified. No, I'm Diego. I'll do as I damn well please.
That's fair. That's fair. But yeah, so I mean, this is big news, because he's the only guy really to win the Ballon d'Or outside of Messi or Ronaldo the past 18 years.
It's been sparse. Let me just take a quick look at. I want to see the Ballon d'Or winners.
He won it in 2018 and basically won it because of Real's success, but leading that little country of Croatia to the World Cup final.
Yeah, I mean, it's well deserved. I'm just looking to see. I mean, I'm curious as to who everyone thinks it's going to be this year.
This year it's going to be Salah,
because there's they're saying Rafinha, Salah, and I don't know about. I mean, Yamal is so young, but I mean he's that good. I just can't imagine if he wins it now, he might win it. He might win it 10 times.
Well, I heard this morning through Henry that they're slapping a $1 billion release clause on his new contract.
Okay, so hang on. A $1 billion release clause on his contract. What does that exactly mean?
That means if you wanted to buy that player. So let's take Wrexham, for example, right? Wrexham wants to buy him. In order to even be able to buy him, you have to trigger the $1 billion release clause in his contract. So the way it works in soccer, when you're going to buy a player, they have a certain amount of money that you're going to have to pay in order to buy that player. So you want to buy him, it's going to cost you $1 billion plus whatever you're going to pay his salary, plus whatever you're going to pay his agents, all the other BS stuff that comes along with it.
Isn't there like a transfer fee? Isn't that how it used to happen?
That's basically what this is. If the club puts the release clause into your contract, so you might have a release clause of $35 million. This kid who's going to be 18 years old, $1 billion.
Yeah, and I mean, once again, I think it's just a negotiating point. I think if you say it's $1 billion, okay, and then you're going to negotiate it out because no one can pay $1 billion for a player except for the Spanish league teams.
Well, the point, I think what the point of it is to tell everybody, hey, this is our new Messi. This guy ain't going anywhere. So
He's not.
don't even bother picking up the phone.
Well, I mean, I'm sure that they're going to be picking up the phone for other guys.
And he's not going to want to leave.
He's a living god there, and he's 18.
Yeah.
So once again, being set, and the only thing that could hurt that guy is just getting injured, because there's always a possibility of where a guy's really good, but a few injuries slow him down from being great. There's always been that issue, and especially when you're going to be a heavyweight goal scorer, that explosion that you need. Just what I mean, to have that sprinting speed. Some guys aren't exactly great in endurance, but those 4 or 5 steps that they can take off the line, it's just like being a sprinter. Some guys are just built to get somewhere faster, but you ask them to do it not as often. You try to save that because those hamstring injuries are ridiculous. I mean,
and he's played heavy minutes since he's come into the team, and he was on the European team last year.
I mean, if I'm the club team, I'd be like this: you're not playing the Olympics. Wait, what's his home country?
Spain.
So once again, you can expect a pretty heavy load in Euro and World Cup. So it's going to be, like I said, you're getting into that incredibly heavyweight type of usage.
Next year, he probably will have the potential to probably play at least 100 games with the World Cup coming in.
Yeah, and World Cup is always just very, very. Those years are. I don't know how they.
And Spain will be one of the 3 favorites to win it all.
Yes, and it's. Look at who they have. They have a pretty brilliant team already, and
they look like the 08 to 2012 team for Spain that won World Cup Euro. That could very well happen with this generation.
Yes,
because they don't only just have him. This midfield is very similar to that one with Iniesta, Xavi, and who was the third guy running through there? I can't remember, but that dominated midfield, that's what this Spain team has.
Yeah. And once again, who else would be the favorites right now? Right off the top of your head.
France. I think you'd have to keep them in there. I'm not going to say Argentina because Messi isn't what he's, you know what I mean? He wasn't what he was 3 years ago. Germany, that generation is just about done and gone. I honestly think you have to say Spain is the favorite now that you asked me that question.
Yeah, they're going to be solid. I think the Italians are going to be better than we remember them.
Yeah, they'll definitely be better. And then, I like Portugal, but I hate Ronaldo sticking around and being on. He's let's say it, he's a cancer on that team because it's me.
And he is, but at the same time, he is. How do I put this? He is so associated with that sport, and he in Portugal, it's not even close. Like he is the biggest, most well-known human being in Portugal, and that includes presidents and everything else you see.
I get it, but if you watched any of their games from the last World Cup, you could see what a problem he was for that manager and for those teammates.
Once again, I think if you're going to have them, use them the way that the French use PK. You come in, when we need a scoring boost and we're down, or we have something like that. That's when he can still have a use. To use him any more than 20 minutes a game, you're crazy.
But that's not what he wants.
Which once again, they haven't picked the team yet, have they?
No.
So haven't you ever noticed there's always somebody that gets left off?
There's still more qualification going on.
Yeah. So if every team, they still don't really pick their teams for a while, and there's always a handful of people that would never have been left off, ever. But they've gotten older and they get left off, and we just say, oh, it's the end of an era. And it happens to at least 4 or 5 guys sprinkled around. And, once again, let's just say a guy like Messi gets, injured. There always comes a time when it's time for you to go. And
so it's ironic that you say that, because growing up as a kid, I always rooted for the Dutch, Netherlands. And why? Because I loved Ruud Gullit and Marco van Basten. And I loved the style that the Dutch played. It was fun. It was entertaining. They were very skillful. Now I'm a huge England supporter.
But there was also Dennis Bergkamp, who was a superstar for a while.
He came in that next generation for them with Edgar Davies, and then Edgar Davies got in that horrible accident, was never the same. But from the late 80s to the end of the 90s, the dudes that came through that team in that country, man, were freaking. Seedorf was awesome. But getting to England, because my favorite players, Stevie Gerrard, England, Liverpool. What you just said, Harry Kane cannot be on this World Cup team.
I've never seen a guy miss more penalty kicks in more important times than allegedly the superstar of the team. And don't get me wrong, he had a pretty good season for Bayern. He actually played reasonably well. And so, that once again, your club play, people, you start someone's candidacy with their club play. And his club play is still, he might not be the number one player on the team. And, it's going to focus around guys like Jude Bellingham also, who's going to.
That's my point, is his style of play does not fit the top talent on that team. He wants the ball played over the top into him, right? He's centrally located, can just try to latch onto one and hit a banger. They have, like Spain, they have so much midfield talent. Phil Foden, Bellingham, Saka, that in the Euros last year, those guys never got a chance to stand out. They never got a chance to sign because we're always banging the ball up and over just to get it to Kane. And then PKs, man, if you don't have it for PKs, you can't be in my squad. Because when you get to these cups, Jesus Christ, the World Cup final 3 years ago, what did it come down to?
Enough in the knockout round, enough teams come down to that if you are not, and remember, even during the game itself, during regulation or during extra time, they literally deferred Harry Kane to do it. He was the guy that took every one of them. And I'm sorry, he missed a lot of big ones. I think we all saw them. And that's one of those where as the focal point of the team, that is almost a dead necessity.
Yeah, and when you have your number one, and he's England's number one, You got to step up for that first kick. You got to bury it. Does Messi ever miss? Nope. Did Mbappe 3 PKs in a World Cup final? He never. Well, I don't know about recently, but like in those big moments, he just has the tendency to choke. And I
Yeah.
feel like I feel like with him on the team and him playing slows up the style of play and the pace of play that England can play at. All right, same thing as we said about Ronaldo. You want to bring him on for the last 5 or 6 minutes of a game because you need a goal? I could live with that, but can he live with that?
And most of the time they're used to being catered to. And this isn't every sport on earth. This is not unique to him or anybody else. They're going to, it's going to be difficult for him, just like Ronaldo, to ever say, I am not the focal point of the team anymore. And, and also it doesn't help matters that when you have a national team coach and who are we kidding? You make your bones. And for all we say about the Euro, which is important, you make your bones in 5 to 6 games in your darn career. That's just a flat out truth. And so the problem is getting second guessed because you have that guy around. Okay, why didn't you use him? If he's not there, you don't really have to worry about it. Like, okay,
They'll say, well, if you brought this guy with you.
yeah. But I mean, that's where, not having the aging stars and having a team like, let's just say, the French a lot of them are in their prime. So you're not really worried about it. You're kind of whoever I bring on this team, no one's going to have a huge stink about, okay, this guy didn't make it or this guy did. And so when you have that kind of freedom as a coach, you can be a lot more creative. I mean, remember, Maradona once played Messi as a midfielder. They made a lot of fun of him. Okay? For the whole World Cup, he made him a midfielder. And everyone just goes, what are you doing? What on earth are you doing? And then naturally, the talk about his drug use and everything came up right at that point.
Right.
It's like, okay, maybe we shouldn't have brought him on as a coach this time out. Maybe this wasn't the world's best idea. But as we're going along about this, once again, I'd let this play out. It's a year. So much can happen, especially with your aging stars within a year. And speaking of that, they're going to be playing a Club World Cup. How many of these guys are going to be in it?
Well, Kane will be in it because Byron's there. Messi will not be in it. Oh, yes, he is because he's
Inter Miami is actually in it.
I'm thinking Barcelona. Jesus.
He'll play as much as he does right now, which is not as frequently as we'd like.
Yeah, Inter Miami will be there. Ronaldo, is he on either of those 2 Saudi teams that are coming?
I think he'd have to be. I mean, they're obviously the ones with the most money. So I would think that they're going to have what they're paying him. I'm pretty sure that they have a pretty good rest of the team.
Yeah, we got to look into that. So let's get into that a little bit. So I was doing some research and some homework, and it's 32 teams, right? Across 6 continental confederations. All right, that's how you qualify. But then the caveat to it is only 2 teams per country. And it's based off of your performance the previous 4 years of whether you win your league or if you win like the big cup competition that your league participates in, i.e. Champions League. So, right, like if we go to the Premier League, Man City's won 4 consecutive regular season titles. Plus, they also won a Champions League. So there's one of your 2 England qualifiers. Chelsea also won the Champions League within the past 4 years. So that's what sent them on their way. So that's why it's Man City and it's Chelsea, no Arsenal, no Liverpool, because they don't have any titles in the past 4 years of either winning your league or a major cup competition.
Yes, it's and they also have some rankings for 4 years, and your UEFA ranking that determines quite a bit of this. So that's how you get you. I mean, and I don't think Barcelona's in this either.
They're not.
And so, it's two teams, Inter Milan, Juventus. That would make pretty much sense. Atletico Madrid and Real Madrid from there, and Man City and Chelsea, which once again they've won the Champions League in the recent past, so they're gonna, it's an automatic, I suppose.
Yeah, so those rankings I think are used if, like, let's say you didn't have multiple Champions League winners like in your league, and you had one team that won the past 4 league titles. I think then it would come down to, all right, Liverpool's ranked second, Arsenal's ranked third, whatever. The highest team from England goes.
By the way, I don't think you're going to be getting Cristiano Ronaldo. I don't think he plays for Al Nassr, and
I don't
they're
think
in it. I don't think they're in it. So, I mean, not that I particularly need him to play anything, but he's. I mean, once again, just for name recognition. And what is this? Like, this is a brand new thing, isn't it? Like, the actual competition is kind of brand new.
What team did you say he was on?
Al Nassr. As of right now.
They're not in it.
Yep. And so, I mean, once again, not a huge loss, except for maybe people going to certain games if he was in it, because I'm not sure how competitive a lot of these Middle Eastern teams are going to be.
Not very.
Hey, don't kid yourself. For the last World Cup, I was in Buenos Aires, and Saudi Arabia beat them in the first game. So that, by the way, I've never seen a whole country literally look like, Eva Perón had just been killed that day.
But that's the combination of all their best players. These club teams aren't the combination of all of a country's best players.
Well, don't worry. Saudi Arabia was 31 of 32 in the rankings. They had very little business.
I mean, there's always those randoms, right? But we were talking about this before. Like, how competitive are these big clubs really going to try to be in this?
I mean, once again, I'm of the school of, okay, I don't want my best players getting injured on something that no one's going to remember 6 months from now. They just, who won the last Club World Cup? Do you know?
No.
Nobody does. Nobody remembers.
It was either probably Man City or Real Madrid.
Yeah, but to them, it's just, once again, it's an off season where you can make quite a bit of money. For your teams can max out whatever you guys are, and because remember, there's still national qualifiers that are going to be going on outside of this. There's always a couple in the summer. Then all your friendlies, which they seem to want to put everywhere. So, I mean, don't get me wrong. I know in a friendly, it's not the end of the world. It's not that. They're not going at full speed. But if you get far in the Club World Cup with the training that goes in, we're talking good 2.5, 3 months of work, because they might be taking time off now, but this starts in 6 weeks. I
wonder how much the winning club gets.
I'm sure that it's not the same up and down the roster.
No,
Um,
I'm talking about how much does the club itself get for winning.
yeah, I'm thinking that what I mean by that is some teams might actually say, well, we want more to show up. I wouldn't be surprised if they pulled something like that. But
Because
over,
I was looking at this the other day ish, and I was surprised. So last year for Champions League for winning it, Real Madrid received a $25 million payout from UEFA
Mhm.
just for winning the final. I don't know, somewhere in my crazy mind, I thought it would have been more. But do you know what they made over the course of the Champions League last year?
I'm sure it was plenty.
About 150 million.
This is
So
we're talking Champions League.
Champions League, yeah. So like, if you make it to the final, you've basically have made your club at least $85 million.
Well, yeah, because you're getting games at home, except for the final. You're getting an extra home game, and not just an extra home game because remember it's home and away, but you're getting an extra home game that's on top of everything else, and I mean, I'm sure that you get part of the TV rights for the home game.
Well, the bulk of the money comes from the broadcasting.
Yeah.
But so like, here's a great question, and it ties into the Champions League final next weekend because Inter Milan, they're in second place in Serie A. They're 1 point out, one game left to go. I asked myself this, and I answered it like really quickly. What's more important, winning your domestic league or winning the Champions League?
I'll say the Champions League.
Yeah,
Just because more, I mean, overall, a handful of teams in every league. I think we talked about this. Some are like 2 or 3. Okay, and I mean, if we're talking about the Spanish league, it's Barcelona, Real, and Atletico, and that's it. Okay, so you're going to win because there's just so few. You're going to win every so often. You probably won it within 5 or 10, the last 5 years. Same with even and this has changed over time. But outside of Juventus, Inter Milan, I don't know if AC Milan is still competitive as they used to be.
no.
But there's a handful of teams that can win that, and I mean I guess it's not mutually exclusive. I mean it's not as if you're not. I mean this is one of those where it's a week after it's a 1 week after another. I don't think you're going to hold anybody out. I don't think that's going to happen in a game like this. I don't see it happening. And the only thing that can be good for you here, and I think that typically speaking, who are they playing this week?
I can't remember off the top of my head, but they have to win and they have to hope that Napoli loses. But the reason why it was so easy for me to answer it is the financial windfall in Champions League is so much bigger than the domestic league win. And players want to play in the Champions League. You risk the chance of missing out on potential transfer targets because if you're not in Champions League, they don't want to play for you. So I think it's massive.
It goes without saying. It's the one thing that once again, so many of the people will not see your league unless you're EPL. You can get a handful of others worldwide, but most of the time, if you ever go to, and this is something, if you ever go to a place like India, all right, India is the kind of place where if you follow this, and enough people do, out of the 1.3 billion that they have there, they got plenty of them, okay? All I will tell you is they know EPL. They might know a handful of people from elsewhere, but EPL is the absolute end-all, be-all to them. And one of my friends' investment account, the the password is Harry Kane 10. Okay, that's how, and he lived in India his whole life, and it was always, there was always the best British player because their TV contract gets them over there like crazy. Okay, they get to see them a lot more.
It's just like here, right? Like Peacock pays to have the EPL.
Yeah, and it's just because, first of all, it's a little bit less predictable, which is probably why people enjoy watching it more. Number two, it's also a lot more bettable. I hate to point it out now, but now people will be watching a hell of a lot more than they were before. Because if you can put money on it, you can watch it. It just brings a whole new level of interest into your sport, and especially in the U.S. market. But just as you were mentioning about Inter Milan, they're playing Como, who's I believe 10th in their league.
Okay.
I don't think they're going to be going balls out or is utterly necessary. So I think that there'll be don't get me wrong. They're going to give it a go, but they're going to,
I think they're going to go balls to the walls because look, they play tomorrow. Champions League finals not until next Saturday. They have a whole week to recover.
And it's part of the regular schedule now. So I don't think they, you've gotten used to this schedule. Where it can get kind of tough is when you're playing your EPLs on Wednesday. And then you're trying to get back for your game. And sorry, not your EPLs, excuse me, your UEFA games on a Wednesday. You put it in the middle of that week and then try to get back. Those are a lot more difficult. And this, come on, they've had, they're not even doing the home and away. You play one game and you're playing it at a neutral site from what I understand. Where is it anyway?
Is it in Lisbon this year?
Wouldn't surprise me. It's not. It's once again, it's whoever it is, it's not going to go far. They're going to get there.
And we're talking about Serie A, where it's more technique, finesse, right? It's like the beauty of the game. It's not the slugfest that the Premier League is.
Oh God!
That's the other reason why people are so attracted to that league, is because it's so physical, and it's literally like any given Sunday with these teams. You've got some teams, like I got it printed out right here, man. Like Nottingham Forrest, 7th place. Villa, 6th place. Brighton, 8th. Brentford, 9th. Bournemouth, 11th. Those teams are usually ones getting regulated. Going down and coming back up. And Nottingham Forest, like, I'm still in, man. I'm so hopeful. This Sunday is going to be insane, by the way, for the EPL. And everybody out there, you better watch it because they all start at the same time. There's 4 teams playing for 2 spots. And there's only 3-point separation between those 4 teams.
But by the way, a lot of things changed over the weekend. Or a lot of things changed just recently. Now, all of a sudden, in the shock of, in the shock and awe of it all, okay, Tottenham somehow won the Europa League, which means they're in the Champions League next year.
So EPL has 6 spots.
Yes, they took over quite a few. And then Crystal Palace is going to be in the Europa League next year just from winning this. Like Tottenham is going to be the next to last team that's not getting relegated. Okay, they're not getting relegated, and you just sit there and go, now you're going to be in the Champions League. Put it this way: if you're getting a game against them, you might be the happiest team on earth. Like, okay, these guys are
lowest point total in England history to win a cup, and it's their first trophy in 17 years. Yeah. And they're considered one of the big 6. And I just made a note before, Crystal Palace, this is their first trophy in 34 years.
Yep. And so, what's amazing about it is it's great because, once again, it brings a lot of attention to teams that don't normally get it. And this is just, it's something that you gotta almost appreciate. And Crystal Palace wasn't, they had a reasonable season by their standards. They were 12th. I mean, if you're Manchester United and Tottenham Hotspur, I mean, when you're 16 and 17,
look, they have a if things break right for them, they have a chance to finish top 10.
But once again, the fact that they're down there to begin with, remember, we talked about their salary. Their salary, they're number 3 in the entire league as far as total payroll of almost 197 million pounds. I mean, when you look at that,
Crystal Palace?
No, I'm talking about Manchester United.
Crystal
Palace. Crystal Palace a lot more reasonable at 78. So, I mean, what I'm trying to look at is how much they pay versus what they're getting on the return on investment. And I will say this, that Liverpool is somewhat reasonable, 135. They get a lot of return on investment.
Man City's got to be 1, right?
Man City is 1 by a good margin.
What's their nut?
Well, it's once again, there's the active payroll, which theirs is still the highest by a lot, but their overall total payroll is 242. They're outpacing Chelsea, who's next, by 40 million.
So Man City 1, Chelsea 2, Man United 3.
Yes. Arsenal 4. And so, and I'll just tell you the ones that are interesting. Like Liverpool is 6. And Liverpool is
Who's
like
5th then?
5th is
Newcastle?
Aston Villa.
Villa, wow.
I mean, it's strange, but the salaries just kind of, you don't think to yourself, okay, this guy's getting paid all this. And some of these guys have just been on the team a long time, and you add them all up, and their payroll, it doesn't look like they have the world's most expensive guys. But Rashford is naturally their big guy. But you got about, I'd say, between 6 and 8 million, or better yet, from five all the way to 8. You have over a dozen guys. So you get all those very accomplished but kind of middle of the run guys that you don't hear too much about.
But they're in 6th place. They made a nice deep run in Champions League.
And once again, their payroll kind of reflects it.
So give me Nottingham Forest.
Nottingham Forest goes down to, and I'll think that they're going to be on the lesser side here.
I'm going to say they're going to be in the bottom 4.
Newcastle is all the way down at 9. Nottingham Forest is 12 at 70 million pounds.
Wow, so they're spending money.
Yeah, I mean, you look at this. I mean, you look at where they are. Up until you get down to the bottom 3, 62.
I'm just surprised because they just got promoted before this season.
I mean, I think they put I think that when you're getting Premier League TV money, you can immediately start spending more.
I know, but I would think that that's a very short time to be recruiting players in and buying them.
Or what you probably do in that year is the guys who did get you past that imaginary line. By the way, their most expensive guy is $6 million, and there's only 2 guys that includes $6 million and $5 million. Everybody else is right around 4 or under. Have a completely different looking roster. It's just, and the thing is once again, as these guys get good and get known, what's going to happen? Someone is going to come with an offer, and they're going to do what they do all the time. Isn't that the way of the world?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these clubs, their goal is to develop, sell on, reinvest, and start the process all over again. They know they're never going to win the league. I mean, that Leicester story is so freaking far out of the woods. It'll be another 30, 40 years before that happens again.
Well, they're getting relegated, so that's going to take even longer now.
They'll be back up next year.
I mean, it depends on, if there's somebody out there who's willing to, once again, pay. Now, with Ryan Reynolds' wonderful efforts, if there's somebody out there willing to pay for a second-tier team, and it's relatively much cheaper than a first-tier team, there's people out there that, hey, if it doesn't take forever to get them up to speed and to get to the Premier League.
Well, and keep in mind, they're going to get a $30 million balloon payment from the Premier League on their way down to the championship. So that's why usually those teams bounce back up. So like J.J. Watt is an owner in Burnley. They were in the Premier League last year, got relegated. Guess what they're doing? Getting promoted.
Almost sounds like that's one of the better strategies. Just wait until they get relegated. I mean, it does have, you're getting a good value there to some degree. And I mean, it's the sport's just going to get bigger and bigger. I mean, I know more people that watch it now than ever watched it before. It's just interesting to people that just didn't. I don't think they appreciated it, and it does help to be able to stream things on your laptop. You don't have to get it on your cable package. Okay, and same with just streaming altogether. You have the ability to get things that you couldn't get before, and you can kind of watch it when you want to, which is another big plus, because then you don't have to be up at or you could be at work, and you're not going to be able to watch Champions League some of the time because it's like, okay, well, I can't watch this.
I remember getting up at 6 a.m. and going to somebody's house for a Man U Liverpool match because it was on at 7 a.m. Those games, the earliest they start now is 9.
The British pubs in everyone's city, like Fado, or we have a couple here. They open up, if you're playing on a Saturday, they open up really darned early. And because, put it this way, you're getting an extra 3 or 4 hours of business that you would not be getting otherwise.
So my Liverpool I can't even talk now. Supporters Club, the Jersey Shore. It's actually the only one in Jersey. It's 5 minutes down the street from me at this place called MJ's. When Liverpool plays in the morning and has like a 9 a.m. or a 10 a.m. game, they make a special breakfast menu just for the Supporters Club. And they don't do breakfast. But on those game days, because they know they're going to have 30 to 50 people at the minimum that come in. When Man City played Liverpool back in February, there was over 250 supporters in that bar.
That's the biggest game there is now.
Yeah.
Plain and simple. And so you're gonna.
It's great. The game's growing. I think what Wrexham really did is it opened all these actors, actresses, athletes' eyes onto wanting to invest. Like Ed Sheeran, he's from Ipswich. He owns 10% of the club. Michael B. Jordan, he's an owner in one of these clubs now. Like I said, J.J. Watt. LeBron is 6% owner of Liverpool.
Well, and remember, that's
Tom Brady, Birmingham City.
And so, I mean, part of the reason they're doing it is also, this is kind of part of a private equity type of portfolio where people can take, they can take someone else's money and invest it into these types of teams. There's, remember, Manchester United was a publicly traded company. I believe it still is
Yeah, the Glazers.
for all these years. It's kind of owned by the city. It's kind of hard to say who actually owns most of the shares, but plenty of it's owned by the city. But that's also a problem because you want to know why? When you're not spending your own money, you get really, really vile with it. Okay? Because what would have to happen? You'd have to get a vote from the shareholders to get rid of the management. And right now, if you're getting this return on investment, what do you think you'd be doing? You'd go like this: fire each and every one of them. Okay, sorry, this money that we pay doesn't get me 16th place. No, and once again, there's just something to be said for you want if you're an investor, you want that return on investment. And and once again, I think that they still make a ton of money because of just who they are. They're known as probably the most famous club on earth, right?
I don't know. I think Real Madrid probably is right now, just because of how much Champions League success they've had in the past 6 or 7 years.
I would agree to some extent. The reason I would say otherwise is just because Man U just gets on TV in more places. And I'm talking about their regular season games. There are just people that are just lifers that still wouldn't. I guarantee you, there are so many people that watch them. They just cheer for Manchester United. They're not into the individual players. They don't particularly.
Oh yeah, I would say they're like the Dallas Cowboys of the NFL. They probably have the most supporters globally.
Yeah,
and that's easily confirmed by the sponsorship deals they have and who sponsors their kits, their stadium, all that stuff. They have these mega sponsorship deals, and it's not because of their success over the past 15 years. It's the name, it's the brand, it's the image, it's the star, right, for the Cowboys.
Yeah, because people come and go, and even Man United, they had Cristiano Ronaldo, did they not? They had David Beckham, and
Rooney,
and they've had all the biggest guys ever to play there. And what's still amazing for a team that has that kind of money, they still sell off so many of their superstars. I'm always kind of wondering as to why. Nobody has more money than you guys.
But if you take Beckham and Ronaldo, you could have paid them whatever they wanted. They weren't staying. They wanted to go to Real Madrid. Michael Owens from Liverpool. Same thing with him. The ginger left back from Liverpool from the 90s. I can't get his name in my head right now. But he left because they want to be a Galactico. Gareth Bale at Tottenham.
Yeah, that's Gareth Bale wanted off.
Everybody wants to go and play at Real Madrid unless you grew up in the Barcelona academy.
And so, but I'm just curious as to, okay, I get their success, but playing at Real Madrid when, you're not even, if you're Beckham, you went there and you were the 5th or 6th best player on the team.
I know, but you know what? Going back to what we talked about, and we're short on time here, easier league. Can put up better for Ronaldo. He can put up. You think Ronaldo would have had the stats in the EPL that he had in La Liga? There's no way.
His stats were good. They weren't as good. He was there for probably his most of his prime years. So, once again, I see the Real Madrid thing. The only thing that's amazing is Well, there's only a handful of spots there. Can't get everybody. I mean, now you could get one or two more guys to go with Mbappe, but that's about it. I mean, how much more? And remember, it wasn't that long ago that they were in financial trouble, even though they're owned by royalty.
Yeah, but you got Bellingham there. You got Vinicius Jr. Trent Alexander's going there next year. They can just go and get whoever they want. That's the clout they have as a club, and they don't necessarily have to spend for it. Like Liverpool wanted Bellingham, but Liverpool knew the player wanted to go to Real. It's going to cost 105 million. Why are we going to get into, a dogfight to get a guy that doesn't want to be here? And that's why they're letting Trent leave. Trent's been at Liverpool his entire life, since he was 6 years old when he went into their academy. I get it. He's 26. He wants to try something new, and he's best buds with Bellingham. He wants to go play with him.
You can last pretty long, but your best is going to be, kind of usually from 21 to about 31. And you only have so much time to make that move before. And I mean, just as many as the great guys that are in, plenty of them get, are shown the door just as quickly when they're not producing. Right?
Yeah. So
I mean,
I want to get this out of you before we go, because the hour's up, believe it or not. Who's winning the Champions League final?
Okay, well, put it this way. I think Paris Saint-Germain is everyone's they went through the hardest road. They took out the best. They took out Liverpool. So everyone wants to go there. I'm going to say Inter Milan. They've quietly but efficiently made it go. And, once again, I also like the one-game setup. The one-game setup means if you're gonna have probably a heavily defensive game, you're not gonna see the wild chances. You're gonna try to keep it pretty tight until you're getting about the 60th, 70th minute, and then you're gonna see a little bit more aggression. I mean,
that won't work for Inter. They won't be able to sustain the PSG onslaught from an attacking thing. I think this is going to be like a 3-3 score, and I could see this going to PKs. I think this is going to be a fun game. I think this is going to be, because PSG only can play this way, and I saw it with my own eyes how they just went right through Liverpool. Defensively, Inter's got a good setup, but they put in 7 goals against Barcelona.
And wait, who put up 7 goals against Barcelona? Wow,
Inter.
So
Inter.
I mean, once
Home
again,
and away.
Oh, okay, 2 games. I was like, wait, they did that in 1 game? That's pretty impressive. I mean, overall, but let me just, if we just run down a lot of these champions.
Hey, it's you and I can talk offline, but we're up against it.
Okay.
We got to check out. The next show's coming on. Everybody, thanks for coming. Ish, thanks for kicking it. See you all next week. Yeah, man.